Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. Tonight's show, Xtreme TV. I'm your host, Rob. With me, I have Professor Pixel and the real RDV coming to you. We are, of course, the Value Shop Boys covering tonight Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1, Episodes 3 and 4. Guys, of course, you know I'm broadcasting live, getting your feeds here on the satellite link from the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. And I got to say, guys, really hopped up. Really excited about talking about these two episodes tonight of Ash vs. Evil Dead 3 and 4 because the lore continues. It gets deeper. We see a lot more stuff going on. And of course, there's a lot to celebrate about our home state of Florida. And Pixel, I think you might have some roots here too. So can't wait to get going on that. But let's start off by saying, guys, for me initially, I think after having a long first episode and then a short second one, I didn't know what to expect because I was so happy with how good the first two episodes went. I was, as a viewer, getting a little bit concerned in that I didn't want it to stop. I was enjoying it so much. So I was almost hoping I wasn't going to get let down. And I will say this, after watching episodes 3 and 4, I'm like, man, it is not letting up. It's getting better to me. It's great. I'm really enjoying it. It's a short 25 to 30-minute episodes each. It's just enough to leave me wanting enough more that you get your opening gambit, you get your story, you get your hook, you get just a minimal amount of development in all the right places, and sometimes going down unexpected paths, which we'll get to in a moment when we talk about these episodes. But overall, for me, I just think it's been absolutely tremendous, and I've enjoyed these. There's definitely not been a letdown from me, only an improvement when it comes to these two episodes. So let's go around the horn here a little bit for some initial thoughts. Pixel, let's go to you first. What did you think overall about episodes 3 and 4 of Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I really like where we're going.
To Jacksonville?
Okay, not Jacksonville. Okay, I figured we'd save the Jacksonville bit for later, but where the episodes are going, in terms of story, they are going down a path that's very just enjoyable, because from the third episode, we finally get to the bookshop, and what was the book guy's name?
Book guy.
Okay. Well, we meet book guy, who's made this his life's work.
Lionel, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was it Lionel? Oh, okay. There we go. Who's made it his life's work. Ash wants to summon a demon to find out how he can stop everything that he summoned before, whenever he was under the influence. They summon the demon. The
Eligos. Minor demon named Eligos, who I think is Eligos, actually.
Yeah. That's the name.
Creepy as hell. Either way, he has this still mouth, and his body, it looks like one of those 3D glasses are always around it, with the red and the blue, and it's just shifting the entire time while his mouth is just there still as he's looking straight at Ash.
Like a parasite, that's what it reminds you of.
Yes. Then we finally get the cop with the group, except the first thing she tries to do is shoot Ash, which didn't go well. It didn't go well for her at all.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely enjoying it too. And the fact that, unlike the boys on Buffy, where you'd kind of seen it and you were watching, or you'd gotten hooked on it and started watching ahead a little bit, I had never seen it. So it's interesting now as we're going through this here, how this is a first time watch for you, but I'm rewatching it. And I got to tell you, there's no let up for me too. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, we'll definitely dive deep into 3 and 4, because there's definitely some great things that you mentioned that are going to continue from season or episode 3 into 4. RDV, what about you? What are your initial thoughts about these two episodes?
They're great. Like I said, this gets a little bit too graphic for me a little bit too. When I first saw it, I was like, yeah, that the demon stuff. I was like, wow, they're really going out with this stuff, because this is like originally their stuff they had in the original Evil Dead movie was just like claymation.
Yeah,
it was. You had the guy. Like, he kind of looked similar to this, but he just had like the teeth in his mouth. But yeah, as far as what I love about the series, that whenever you think something's gonna go right, it's not gonna go right. This Ash has the worst luck ever. He's an idiot, and like he's like, well, just, let's do some our lesser demon. We can ask you stuff about this. Fine. Nope.
Well, you bring up a really good point. Let's just go ahead and use that, because I think that is the most telling thing here. It's not that Ash is a buffoon, because he is, of course, and we love him for that. It's the fact that I would say that these episodes don't follow the path you initially think they're going to go, or if they're following it just a little bit, you're not quite sure, and it's not overly predictable. I'm not saying you get a lot of swerves, but to your point, Doctor, they get a nice little summary at the beginning of the episode, but then they introduce this new character, and it's of course Lucy Lawless, who's just looks phenomenal in here too. She's on the hunt, you can tell, and she stops by at the farm, so there's definitely some sense of continuity, and you go, okay, this is not going to be an episode where it's like a monster of the week type thing where we don't forget about everything has a purpose and a reason, and that's why it's so lean and tight. But to your point, the graphics, I mean, Pixel mentioned that with the demon there. You said it was a bit graphic too. What did you think of the demon?
Well, I said that this whole demon thing is like it's awesome, and it plays a larger part into the next episode too.
Yes.
This opens up more of acting stuff, more of a plot, more subplots too. I gotta say, I love how Kelly acts in the next episode.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that, but yeah, for the whole thing with the
demon teleporting, and then they're like, "We'll just shoot it." I'm like, "It can teleport," and then like, of course, like I said, whenever good goes, something like, "Yeah, we're doing it." Oh, Sharded Glass kills Lionel. He's dead. it's like.
Well, here's the thing. You're right. The demon is like really awesome looking, and I will say this. I know it's probably a Sam Raimi thing, because most of his films look this way. About the show looks good. They look like they're just a couple big set pieces with a few like driving clips, continuity to kind of connect them. But the bookshop looks fantastic. The demon is awesome. But here's the other thing too. I was joking about scary dolls, when in last week's episodes, when we covered episodes 1 and 2, you kind of get that a little bit today. But when they're going to summon the demon, and the lights are flickering, and of course thousands of pieces of paper from books are flying over. It's stupid, it's dumb, it's simple, and it's very effective, and it never tires. But even all the little embryos because of course if you're a bookseller, you have to have embryos in a jar of weird things. That little one that kind of comes to life just for a little bit, that looks like a goat or something. It's like, what the hell? That looks fantastic. This is like a really visually a very good looking episode. I mean, the whole show's that way. So I'm trying to take your graphic there comment, Doctor, and just kind of say, yeah, it's true, but I think it's true in almost all the areas. Or do you guys see something different?
Well, I gotta say, for being a show that is based off a movie, it's not half-assed. They actually went out with the stops. I can see, and then that being on Stars, they really upped the budget on this one, especially that stuff. Because I said back then, he wouldn't got this stuff. Because when the first movie first came out was 1981, and then the next one didn't come out till like the late 80s, I believe, or early 90s.
Yeah, mid to late 80s.
Yeah. So
there's a third one in the 90s.
Yeah. The technology back then wasn't that great. They actually had a guy in like makeup and prosthetics. This they're able to do. I guess they're able to do with a little bit of the computer graphics for this thing. I'm not sure if they actually did have a guy in the demon suit, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty effective though.
Yeah. So.
Well, let's go to this part, because I mean, the demon, we know it looks good. It's a good looking show, nice set pieces. It's filmed in New Zealand, so it's got the atmosphere, the ambience of the sky and everything there too. At first, I was like, "Is this Vancouver, like a lot of things, or was it Michigan?" And I was checking it out, and I was like, "Oh no, it's that." So yeah, I mean, again, you can watch each episode individually. They give you a little bit of an opening gambit, and of course, they get you caught up.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna swing this over to Pixel, because Pixel had made a comment earlier about the oasis that we here in Florida refer to as Jacksonville, Florida, former paper mill on the river that used to smell like, it's hard to describe, but if you would drive through Jacksonville, once you get to the southern part of the county and go through it, it would just smell of certain kinds of chemicals, not really strong, but kind of musky, like swampy, but worse, like vinegary. And so Jacksonville, for some reason, Ash wants to go there because he's tripping out in a dream. We'll find out here in episode 4 shortly when we talk about it. But as a joke, the redneck Riviera, North Florida, as we like to say, or South Alabama, some like to call, it just doesn't kind of make sense. And that's one of the interesting things here about it is, okay, we know Ash is going to hook up with these 2 kids, young adults, make his way down here. But again, we kind of expected the cop to kind of show up and maybe join the group possibly, but she doesn't. She's ended up getting mixed with Ruby, who's a character that's only was briefly introduced in one of the earlier episodes at a diner. And of course, that's the Lily Lost character coming in. So I like what Pixel you had to say about how you kind of know the general direction it's going, but how they get there and arrive is pretty interesting, because the whole idea of, RDV, you mentioned, Ash was being kind of a buffoon when he is. Well, Pablo makes a throwaway comment about, well, that's just summon a demon and ask him or something along those lines. And he's like, that's a great idea, Tex-Mex or whatever he calls him. He always is calling him something different. Yep. And so that's the whole idea. And so he's like willing to run with it. And what's kind of neat there too, at the end, like I've said, is the shows are not relying on Ash totally to curate, even though he is the focal point. Everyone who's a side character, including bookshop guy, is fantastic. So yeah, this show moves really fast. It goes really, really quick. So far to me, I think the pacing's great. Pixel pretty much summed it up in like 30 seconds there with that. But let me go around the horn here and say, anything else about episode 3 before we jump into 4. Pixel, as far as episode 3 goes, you're 3 episodes in now. Do you sense something that's going to go into 4, or what are you thinking?
Well, the way episode 3 ends, they lock the FBI agent to a stairwell inside the bookshop, and right as it's ending, the book guy sadly didn't make it, and so he rises as a deadite and goes to attack her, and that's how it ends. That's how it leaves us. So I think how flawless it went straight into the next episode was really neat, because I expected us to jump back to Ash and then get back to her later, but no, it started straight with her, and then where it introduces Ruby.
What did you think about how, okay, so we talked about having Pablo and Kelly join in the group or whatever, and then there's a nice little scene there where he mentions there at the end, after literally giving the cop the slip, about how, this lone wolf, is need to run with this pack because they saved him. And it's true. We've seen Pablo, even though he's got the hots for Kelly, getting put in a friend zone in the car early, but these characters are coming along where there's just enough character stuff in there. So what do you make of these two and their effect on the episode so far, Pablo and Kelly?
Well, Kelly's kind of the reason it all goes to hell.
It's a woman. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you're right.
She freed the FBI agent when they initially locked her up, and they went inside. Ash broke the circle due to being startled. If she hadn't done that, see, Kelly is still on the fence. She believes that there's something. She gives too much leniency to the people that aren't there with it. The FBI agent isn't stupid, but in the terms of how she has acted in these 2 episodes, it's just not the brightest moves. Because it's clear that Ash isn't some crazy killer.
Right.
He's just an idiot.
I do like how Pablo and Kelly were both given opportunities in the first couple episodes, and in this episode, it's Kelly's turn to actually be the change agent, if you want to sound like an ass, where she actually takes upon herself to deal with the demon a little bit, even though Pablo tried as well. And that's going to be very prominent going in episode 4. So we see these two aren't completely dopey and useless. They have merit. They definitely have shown their mettle and they're worth being a part of the group. And I think that's awesome, being productive too. And even though the cop got tied up and all that, she's not showing herself to be incompetent, which is, breathtaking, and it's a change. Doctor, let's bring it around to you here. 3 episodes in, how you feeling about it?
Like I said, I love this entire series. 3rd episode coming into this stuff. Up until this point, the most we saw of any Deadites was, Amanda's friend or partner getting speared through the moose antlers house. I mean, right? And having to cheat her, having to kill it because it was because it reanimated. Amanda, she knows something's messed up, and and she all she knows is that Ash is in the middle of it, so she's like hell bent on getting answers. She wants, she's at this point, like her boss was saying oh, you need to sit this one out and stuff, and she's like, no, I got personal stake in this. And then Ruby, like you said, she hasn't really popped up until the end of this, maybe I guess the fourth episode when she pops up more. So we don't really know much about Ruby, other than that she's hunting down Ash too. And I believe it was either this episode or the episode after this where she finds his hand.
Yes, I think that's episode 4.
Yes, which is cool because they bring in the nod. It's like, hey, it's this is, and I love how they team up into the next episode. Like I said, the side characters have a role. Even Amanda has a big role in this too, and she plays later. I mean, I love the diner scene too from the previous one. Like I said, this is turning into a really good show. Like I said, and there's a lot of shows that we're gonna base this off the movie. You get shows like The Transporter. What? This is nothing like the movie at all. Or you get what was it, Shooter with speaks off the Mark Wahlberg, where it has nothing to do with it. It's totally different. Like I said, this is the most faithful adaptation I've seen coming from actual 200 movies into a TV series. It's been a while that I've actually seen something that people actually cared about it, and it's written by the people and directed by the people, starring with the people that were in the movies. This is the first for me. I'm sure it might have been done before, but I don't remember. But
I can't think of one.
But like I said, this being on Stars allowed them to have a more mature. They knew they had a mature audience, so they couldn't be on regular television because they would have to censor themselves. And I love that they keep the gore in there. You know what? We're gonna make it. I watched behind the scenes for some of this stuff, and he's even Bruce Campbell's. He's like, yep. You love blood? Well, guess what? We're gonna have lots of blood. It's like you're gonna shit your pants. There'd be so much blood. I love because Bruce Campbell himself, he loves doing the gore movies like this. It's always been his thing. He loves the comedies for this. But yes. So this up until this point, once I saw they actually had the demon in there, I was like, oh my gosh, can they get any more sweeter than this? It's like. And then it comes to episode 4. It's like, fan service. It's really episode 4 should be entitled Pablo's fan service.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a weird, trippy episode, and it's appropriately entitled Brujo.
Yes.
One thing I do like about the show, and we'll stick with you, Doctor, before going back to Pixel in this episode, is that it had been mentioned earlier, especially in episode 1, which I believe is called El Jefe, which, Pablo thinks Ash is El Jefe, which has powers and stuff like that. You can see him kind of idolize him like a big brother type. But again, Pablo and Kelly have both shown their mettle where they're both productive. And one of the things I like about it too is it's been introduced enough where Pablo's not staring at the screen and we can go, hey guys, I'm half Brujo, or I have a Brujo, and he's saying it 50 million times, but it's enough where you go, oh, it makes sense because the plan here after they leave the bookstore is, hey, I know somebody who might help, let's go see him. He's right down the road or whatever like that. And that's where they're off to. So Pixel's point, they just go right into it. So take it from here. What are your initial thoughts about this 4th episode?
Well, the 4th episode, it starts off with basically Amanda being rescued by Ruby and them teaming up, and so they go, so that they're teaming up, they're tracking down everything, so and then it switches back over to the group. The Ash, Pablo, and Kelly are going to see his Pablo's uncle. She's a shaman called a brujo, and I think he could help. And so yeah, so the brujo basically is like, to help Ash. He's like, he's like, we gotta find out your inner peace or whatever stuff, So basically gives Ash some drugs. And Allison and he's like, dude, I've done drugs before. I've done LSD. He's like, he's not gonna hate. All of a sudden, he's like, oh, where am I? And then he's sitting on, he's relaxing on a pier in Jacksonville, Florida.
And the funny thing is they make Jacksonville to be like, the shiny, wonderful-looking skyline or whatever. And Jacksonville's a few buildings, on the river in front, and that's it, basically.
He's got, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey, what's going on? All of a sudden he's like, hey, Eli, where'd you come from? Ash's pet lizard. And he starts talking. He's like, whoa, you can talk, buddy. That's awesome. It's supposed to be Ash's favorite fishing spot. That's why he loves Jacksonville. The lizard's talking the whole time. He's sitting there, he's having a beer. He's like, look, 2 hands. I can drink 2 beers with 2 hands. He's got a beer in each hand. Just that whole part of him tripping out and stuff, and then they switched to Kelly with if you wanna, I'll skip a little ahead. Kelly and what's her name were in the trailer. Pablo in the trailer, and at this point, Pablo has had a huge crush on Kelly.
Yeah, understandably so.
I know, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Dana is a looker in this one. So they're in there, and all of a sudden, Kelly starts coming on to him, and then he making him a little nervous because he's like, "What? What's going on here?" It's like, and she's like, "You want to smoke some weed with me and stuff?" And it's just and you get to the point where you realize that, hey, Kelly's not acting herself. She's suddenly coming on to Pablo, and then you kind of see it like a flash of the demon inside her. It's like, holy crap!
Yeah, so they didn't black eyes. Yeah, looks cool.
So we didn't just kill her when she hit over the head with a Necronomicon. Instead, it jumped in her. So, but yeah, this is and then it kind of jumps back to Ruby and Amanda and saying, Ryan, Ruby's basically lying her ass off. At this point, we don't know, but I mean, you eventually find out who Ruby is towards the end. But she's saying that Ash killed her sister Annie 30 years in a cabin.
We don't know that, but we take that. That's the only information we're given. So I agree with you. If you haven't watched the movies at all and you're just starting off with this show, you can still watch it. You're not missing out on a lot. Yes, there were movies and stuff, but we're going with what information we're given here and what we're seeing.
Oh, and it's tied to the show, it's tied to the movies, because who was in the cabin. There was no Annie in the cabin. And so Ruby, I don't trust her as it is. The fact that she knows so much, and she's hell bent on basically getting to finding out Ash. So like I said, this is basically another good episode. I mean, I love how basically so Ash is in his little tripping now, his tripping balls. Yeah, you got Pablo is basically arguing with his brujo shaman or uncle. Kelly is possessed, wants to basically get it on, but also lost. She's basically not really get it on. She's basically just wants to kill Pablo towards the end. And then you got Ruby and Amanda coming. They basically in the car. They got Ash's severed hand, possessed hand. They're using that to track him. So it's this is all happening all at once, and it's something's going to happen in that episode 5. So, but
and I think what you're saying is pretty good about it, because it's a weird episode. It's goofy. It's not as serious as the other episodes were, even though there was a lot of lighthearted dialogue and some nice banter going back and forth that you can miss. But I will say this: I obviously understand now where Alice in Chains got their inspiration for Man in the Box, because when Ash is tripping, his eyes are sewn shut. And that's the first thing I think about is, oh, here you go, Alice in Chains. Thank you. I mean, it's a great visual, and that's one area that this show definitely does not disappoint in too.
Well,
but
the other thing is, I'll leave this for Professor, but what Pablo's building is awesome.
yeah, so yeah, let's go over to you, Pixel, and I will say this as we go to you. Another fantastic episode with some great music, and you got some Allman Brothers in here. You've got Whitesnake. I mean, it's not like they play the entire song, but just enough of it. It really is a great way to start it. And you, Pixel, you were so adamant about how in season 3 they did a great job of starting the episode, but you also mentioned how they closed off episode 3. Why don't you go on with how they started this particular episode, since you're so aware of that?
Well, they go to. Well, wait, I already said how it started. It started with the FBI agent,
Yep.
where Ruby doesn't rescue her because the police officer just shoots. She brings the gun to her, picks it up, and shoots the book guy.
Yep.
Which
Possessed
I
book
feel
guy
bad.
with glass sticking out of his eye. It looks really cool on his forehead. Oh, it's awesome.
Oh,
It's like Giles on steroids.
Well, no, what it
Giles
was,
on steroids.
no, because what happened was Amanda was being choked by the Deadite. She shot the Deadite, but was still being choked.
Yeah.
And then Ruby comes and hits it with a lamp.
You're right. It was a team effort.
Yes.
Girl power.
Girl power.
Girl power. Then Ruby unhooks her basically, and explains that 30 years ago, my sister went up to a cabin and Ash killed her and my mother and father, because in the original Evil Dead, that's why the Necronomicon
Evil
was
Dead
up
2.
there.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Evil
Yeah, Evil Dead 2, because
Evil Dead 2.
the girl came to the cabin and saw that her mom was like looking for her mom or her dad. Yeah. Henrietta.
If you haven't seen movies and don't know, you just have to take her face value. So we'll go with that for now.
But she's trying to play the role of the girl where Henrietta was her mother.
Yeah.
The
fact that she still has Ash's hand is crazy.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? No,
It is. I didn't expect. I couldn't remember if the hand got destroyed or not, but I guess not. And then we cut back to Ash, and Ash goes to meet Pablo's uncle. I did not expect Pablo's uncle to be as annoyed as he seemed. I expected him to be like an older Pablo almost, but he was far more serious than I expected, which I actually do enjoy. And then we get taken on the drug trip. I don't know why he wants to go to Jacksonville. I guess like his uncle says, the idea that if he had gone to Jacksonville, he wouldn't have gone to the cabin, and it would have been a far different life. But can we just talk about for a moment? That's not Jacksonville.
No, it's not. Jacksonville's not horrible, but it's not a huge metropolitan, cosmopolitan city. I know you're in the Tampa Bay area generally, kind of, sort of, and we have some other fans from the Xtreme Movie Show that live over in that area. I will say that Jacksonville's tried to radically transform later, but they're just making fun of it in a sense. And I don't know if this is about the time when the Florida stuff started trending everywhere on the internet about, oh, it's crazy. Well, it happened in Florida. It's like there's this conspiracy out there, not too well hidden about, well, if something dumb happens, hey, Tiger King, somehow it's related to Florida. Yep, there's the connection. It's just make fun of it. And it's just the Ash going, well, if I had did this instead of this, life would be rosy. And it's just kind of funny. But hey, in all honesty, it didn't matter where you're at in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Florida was the place to be for spring break. It still is. It's changed a bit. Jacksonville, it's kind of silly. And I don't know. It's kind of dumb, but maybe we'll see something more about Jacksonville later in the episodes if they continue the way they're doing building it. I wanted to ask you something about Pixel here. Is that you were talking a little bit about Ruby, who teamed up with Amanda there, the cop, and they were talking. She's giving her information, stuff like that. But you're right. She helped kill the demon there, stabbing her, right?
Yeah.
At this point, watching it, are you thinking she's supernatural, spiritual, or just an average human being?
I think she's got a little something to her, a little something more than we've been given. Something that we don't know yet, but we'll learn eventually. Because that's not... I don't even know where she would get that information that Ash was there. That story seems a little too loose for my liking.
Yeah. Well, what else about this episode did you like there?
I really liked the towards the end, whenever while Pablo is building the hand, which that's what Pablo's doing. Venkman didn't finish. They're building a new hand for Ash.
Yeah, that's where the Amanda had tried to, chain him up, but he locked her up at the end of the episode. And walked out there.
See what he's using to build it though? Nintendo Power Glove.
And looks like chain links too from her bike chain. Nintendo Power Glove. Is that true? I didn't really notice that. Is that true, Doctor?
It's a Nintendo Power Glove. That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's funny.
It has the thing. It has a keyboard on it. Yeah. Don't you remember? It was the same glove the guy used in we were Kung Fury.
Oh, okay. Yes.
But towards the end there, I really like the scene where the demon has turned Ash's villain into like a horror, or Ash's villain turned Ash's vision into a hellscape. When he got his head trapped in a jar and sorry, and each one was getting destroyed, and he's like, "Hey, be careful there."
Yeah, because we get our Eva doll showing up, and he squeezes it, and her eyeball pops out. It's those kind of little touches that really make the show laugh. Really funny. That's why it's not a horror show; it's a comedy show, but it's really entertaining to watch.
I can't believe those damn dolls came back. I'm not creeped out by them like they're dummies or anything, but I just can't believe they found a way to come back.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the episode's pretty much, ends after his trip. They get some insight about what's going on, and to your point, when he's in that dreamscape, he's choking Kelly a little bit, but then it kind of ends. So they haven't fully realized she's under, in a bad spell, and we don't know what's going on with Pablo. And then, of course, anybody modern day thinks the whole shaman lore, unless you grew up around it, that there's of course no such thing as ghosts. It's a nice thing to fantasize about. And of course, everything was some form of LSD tripping and all that. And he went inside to get some information. LSD is an interesting drug in terms of its cognitive effects, which is another podcast for another time. But yeah, I agree with both you guys. I think this episode's really tight. It moves really fast. It does look good. Everything you guys said and brought to our attention is, I think, spot on. And I'm going, wow, 4 episodes in, and it's just been great. There's been no drop off in quality. The sets look pretty good. It doesn't seem like we were talking about, like, say, with season 1 on Buffy, where we mentioned how Buffy, some of the episodes seemed a little uneven, like they were trying to find their place. Here, it seems like they know it, and it's like they picking up where the movie's left off and filling it nicely. It's been quite a pleasant surprise, I think, to watch, and I can't wait to next week when we do episodes 5 and 6. But yeah, more great music, more great lines, all sorts of great stuff in this.
Yeah, my first impression of Ruby is when you first see her, the way she knows, the way she handles herself, the way she's not afraid of any of these Deadite stuff, this means that she knows something, and she's leading on that she's actually much different than when she appears. The way she handles Lionel, how she basically just hits him with a lamp and then pins him to the wall with a shard of glass. That shows strength right there. That means that she's not. I don't think if she's human, she's got some kind of supernatural boost to her or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too, because it's like anybody that grew up in the 90s probably saw a little bit of Hercules and Xena and stuff. And of course, Bruce, I think, was in a few episodes of that they have a history working together. So it's not surprising some characters would show up. But I just,
Her
the
husband.
only slightly negative would be is that, okay, it just reminded me of Xena a little bit. I'm going, well, she's not Xena, but she's Xena-like. Is it supposed to be like an inside joke because they know each other? Yeah, you were going to say that there's a connection.
Well, there is a connection to this actual movie, to this actual show, because the fact that her husband actually is the one, Opera Tapper is the one who's writing the script.
That's right.
He's writing the series or not. So that's another reason they're able to get her on there too. And plus those two have worked together too. There's actually even that, and the evil that Ash versus the Army of Darkness comics, they've had Xena crossover with Ash before too.
Oh, they have.
Yeah, in the comics, they've had crossovers where Ash won the portal and he wound up back in like Xena's time, was hitting on Gabriel. It's like, so they've had crossovers because they're both Dynamite properties.
It's interesting you say that because on my Twitter feed, when I was sending out the tweet as we were getting ready to launch here, I had noticed somebody had made a comment somewhat recently about Ash versus the Evil Dead, saying it's kind of like just a wish list, saying Ash needs to be in Mortal Kombat 11. I'm like, that'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't he in that? Or
I don't know.
No,
They had a leak where Ash was supposed to be, but he wasn't. And I've played it, and there's the Terminator, there's RoboCop, there's even like Spawn and Joker, but there's no Ash, and it's very disappointing.
Well, I never really cared for Mortal Kombat after it got off the Sega Genesis.
That's fair.
Well, the last thing I'll mention, just for my final thoughts as we go around here, is that is an inside joke. We were talking about Jacksonville and the great state of Florida, because this is where we're based out of and work from. But I think it was in episode 3. Pablo's walking around and he's got like a windbreaker type jacket on, but it's open, so you see the T-shirt he's wearing, and it's got this beautiful logo of a Trojan, and I'm like, that's awesome. It represents one of the finest institutions of high school learning here in the Central Florida area, and that of course I'm talking about in Pine Hills, just a few miles down the road here from the Pine Hills Palace that I am broadcasting live from, and that's would be Maynard Evans High School. Go Trojans, class of, not going to say, but school's been around 50, 60, 70, 80 years. The Soul Bowl was held there. So many wonderful memories of Angleton from I Love Comics, myself, and other people associated with this show. And it just made me think of that. And I thought, God, are they ribbon on it? And I don't know what the reason was why they put it, but the logo's distracting to me because it represents the Trojan mascot standing there at Double E Stadium over there near Pine Hills and Silver Star Road. But that's just I'm just popping a marker myself for anybody here in Orlando that listens to the show or in Florida. But yeah, guys, I love these 4 episodes. They're fantastic. I admit being a little bit concerned coming in that there would be a letdown in terms of, say, quality or pacing or maybe even story ideas. And I'm thankful as somebody who's watching something that I was happily mistaken, because I think the pacing, the timing of it's perfect. It leaves me just wanting more. It's like right when I'm feeling great about the show, it ends and it goes to the next one. But again, you get the great opening gambit, you get the great closing thing. Usually the continuity picks up right where it left off, which I think is fantastic. A little bit of some fantastic music being played so far in these episodes. I'm loving it, guys. I'm excited. I'm glad there's 3 seasons. Of course, this is the kind of feeling you get that makes you want to have 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. But as we'll cover it, we'll see what happens there too. So let's go around the horn here. RDV, your final thoughts so far up to now.
Like I said, this is we're in episode, I believe episode 4. So basically, everything's starting to come to a head. We're gonna have Ruby maybe in the next episode meeting Ash. Who knows? Or
sure seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, everything is because they're all heading towards each other. They're all it's going one giant thing. At the end of this episode, it appears that Ash is the one that's possessed, even though we know, as the watcher, we can see that it's actually Kelly. The fact, and so I got a feeling. It's been a while since I watched the next episode, but I'll say based on the ending of this episode. We're gonna do a little switcheroo here. We're gonna have, well, at least we're gonna be a little bit of scapegoating. Ash is gonna be accused of being possessed, and then meanwhile we're gonna have Ruby probably coming up with Amanda like just cruising down this and then towards the Brujo farm. Which I gotta say, you look outside. This guy, if I saw someone who had that property like that with all the skulls and all that stuff, animal skulls stuff. There's no way I'm going in there, even if he's a Brujo.
That's the only thing we didn't mention was the evil cloud chasing them in the car, and he had the nitrous, and the whole purpose of the evil cloud, besides them propelling them forward to the Brujo mansion, is that the cloud stops there at the border of the guy's stuff. So allegedly we go, ooh, the guy's got some powers. He's the real deal, not just a fake phony guy.
I love the evil cloud because that's like to me that's like the Deadites like all together. That's so dark, because he must have opened up a portal when he did whatever he did, allowed them to come into Earth. So because remember in the movies. It'd be sunny outside, but as soon as it got dark outside, then all of a sudden all the Deadites would start coming, and that's how they all come in. So when he got possessed originally, the sunlight shone on his face, and then the Deadites possessing him was like killed or something or weakened and let go of him because of the sunlight. So they're kind of playing on that with the clouds, the storm stuff, the dark storm coming and chasing them. I assume that's all the Deadites. That's what I'd say.
You bring up a good point. Let me ask you this before we go to Pixel, and that's okay. At the end of the episode, of course, we know in this episode, that she's possessed, right? That Kelly's possessed. So, it's the demon from before, so we get to see him a little bit, kind of, sort of, and we see Ash, having to kind of battle him in his own little dreamscape nightmare type scenario. So, let me ask you: do you like when you're watching a show as a viewer, knowing something's going on with one character, but that the other characters don't know, like this? Because sometimes I find that really frustrating, and I'm not sure how everybody feels about that. Like, do you think that's a good thing for the show, that she's supposed to be possessed, and yet everybody else doesn't, so you're watching that kind of tomfoolery happen, or what?
Well, I can say I kind of it works out in this, and it's not like we're going on for 3 or 4 episodes like this, and like nobody can tell by that. Yeah, then I get frustrated, But it's just only like at the end of the episode, like then everything's starting to work out. By the next episode, it does wrap up the whole demon thing. But I gotta say though, it doesn't really irk me. Like I said, if a story plot is obvious and it's so obvious that the other characters should know what's going on, there's something wrong, and it goes on for like 4 episodes. Then I get irritated, especially if you get a filler episode like Walking Dead does. We're gonna do a flashback because we need another episode to stretch the season along. What?
Right.
that makes me mad. But actually, like I said, this show was done right. This is Sam Raimi. This is what Sam Raimi does best when he's not interfered by Sony. That's why Spider-Man 3 sucked, and I'll say that because it's Sony, because they forced him to do something he didn't want to do. When Sam Raimi is able to direct by himself, without anybody's interference, he does great.
Strong prescription from the doctor. Pixel, what about you? 4 episodes in, where we at? How you feeling?
I'm ready to get going. I'm ready to get going with it. I'm ready for the next one. I'm jived for it. I like how it ends, where it leads directly into the next episode, because like with Buffy, it didn't end with that. Every episode you ended right there, and okay, I'm ready to call it a day. But this is just action upon action upon action that keeps you down a path, and that is awesome. That just feels awesome when you're watching it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all in agreement with this too. Dalton had some technical issues, wasn't able to join us tonight. He's one of us. It'll be interesting, his take on this coming in, because he's kind of like the occult expert in the group. So he really picks out some of the nuances there that we kind of gloss over too, and be interesting for his feedback on that. And I know he has enjoyed it up to this point as well. So yeah, Dalton, if you're listening, hope you're there with us next week, man. This has been pretty awesome. It's been a fun ride on so far. So guys, thanks for showing up tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for listening, for retweeting, growing the audience. It's been incredible. Looking forward to doing episodes 5 and 6 with the other Value Shop boys as well too. So for myself, Pixel, RDV, Dalton, and the team from I Love Comics, and everybody involved here at the Extreme Movie Show, good night. As always, stay extreme. Toodles.
Later, guys.
So long.